Good afternoon. Today is Wednesday, May 13th, and this is your math lesson video for geometry. It says lesson 6, but it's actually lesson 5. So if you could get out your math materials, I'm on your math calendar. First thing we're going to do is check back where we were yesterday, which was classifying triangles. Today we're going to work on classifying quadrilaterals by sides and angles. We're going to add some vocabulary to your vocabulary list. There's an optional BrainPop video on polygons, and then also a two-dimensional shape sort. So we're only doing one lesson today to give you plenty of time to do that, and then your exit ticket. And there's no warm-up or ERQ or anything like that. So your exit ticket today is your shape sort. And that looks like this. It's one of the last pages in the math packet. All right, so we're going to jump back in where we were last week. We were talking about classifying triangles by their angles, obtuse, right, and acute, and classifying triangles by their sides, scalene, isosceles, and equilateral. So I'm on page 918. We always kind of backtrack a little bit to get our brains back thinking. Question 13. Emma, Gabriel, Jorge, Michaela each drew a different triangle. Use the clues below to describe each person's triangle as isosceles, equilateral, or scalene, acute, right, or obtuse. All right, so Gabriel and George, I'm just going to write a chart, and Emma and Michaela. They each drew a triangle that's 90 degrees. Gabriel's triangle does not have any congruent sides. No congruent sides. One angle in Emma's triangle is greater than 90. And each side of Michaela's triangle is 4 centimeters long. 3 congruent sides. And 2 sides of Emma's and Jorge's. All right, so how would I describe a triangle that has 90 degrees and no congruent sides? And how would I describe a triangle that is 90 degrees with 2 congruent sides? And how would I describe a triangle that is bigger than 90-degree angle and 2 congruent sides? And all congruent sides equal. So that means if they're equal, the angles are equal too. So how much do those angles equal? All right, I'm going to let you go ahead and finish that out. And if you were working on it, hopefully you could check this a little bit with your answers to see if you got what I got. How do you classify triangles? There's 2 ways. I can classify triangles by 2 things. Sides and angles. All right, we're going to jump to lesson 4. We're on page 926. And this was about identifying attributes of quadrilaterals. What is one way you can determine if a quadrilateral has parallel sides? So what is the definition of parallel? Remember, if you haven't answered these already, the expectation is that you answer before you listen. Parallel means they never meet. So if you had something like this, if I was to extend this line and extend this line, they would eventually meet. But if I had something like this, and I extended lines, they would never meet. All right, circle the quadrilateral that does not belong with the other three. I'll give you a clue. Look at the sides. So how many sets of parallel sides do we have? How many sets of parallel sides do we have here? Just these two. How many sets of parallel sides do we have there? What about this one? None. If we extended these, they would cross. If we extended these, they would cross. No sets. So which one doesn't match? This one. And I'll let you go ahead and make sure you answer why. Give me one way the quadrilaterals are alike and one way that they are different. Man, my brain is tired. I've been up since 6. All right, well, what is the definition of a quadrilateral? What does quad mean? Yeah. 4 straight sides. What are some ways they're different, though? So looking up here, what are some ways they're different? So the sides are different, not necessarily parallel or not. They're like perpendicular, like these, 90-degree angles. What about the length of the sides? So although they all have 4 straight sides, how the sides are laid out, parallel or perpendicular, and how big they are is different. All right, so today we're going to start with classifying quadrilaterals. And I have to say, this is probably the hardest one, which is why we're going to do a sort. So we have 4 sides. If there's only one set of parallel sides, it's a trapezoid. So one set. If there's 2 sets of parallel sides, and if they're congruent, which they'd have to be, so these are parallel and congruent. These are parallel and congruent. And I remember parallel because the L's in parallelogram, the L's are parallel. All right, now we have another one, a rectangle. A rectangle is a type of parallel that has right angles. All of these are right angles. Parallelograms don't have to have right angles. And remember, opposite angles are congruent. But if they are right angles, it's a rectangle. Now, if all the sides are congruent, it's a rhombus. Some people used to call these diamonds. And that means it's a parallelogram because it has opposite sides parallel and it has 4 congruent sides. If it's both of these, it's a square. So a square is a parallelogram that has 4 sides that are congruent and 4 right triangles. So a square has all the attributes of a rectangle and a rhombus. All right, so let's do a little bit of practice. And we're going to use some riddles to practice this as well. One side of Realia building in Madrid, Spain is shown on the right. Describe the attributes of the quadrilateral. And I can't really see it in my picture, but I think it looks like that. It has opposite sides congruent and parallel. So it is a parallelogram. Describe the attributes of the quadrilateral before. The opposite sides of the quadrilateral are parallel and congruent. There are 4 right angles, so this is called a rectangle. Below is a design. The quadrilateral has 4 congruent sides. The opposite sides are parallel, so it is a rhombus. It can't be a square because there are no right angles. All right, let's just look at a couple of these. First, we're going to start off. How many sides does it have? 4. So it's a quadrilateral. Are the opposite sides parallel? Yes. So it's a parallelogram. I'm just going down the list. Does it have congruent sides? No. So it can't be a rhombus. Does it have right angles? No. So it can't be a rectangle. All right, we're going to start with this one. Oh, it says describe the attributes. So it's opposite sides, congruent, and parallel. All right, now we have this one. We're going to start. Does it have 4 sides? Yes, so it's a quadrilateral. Does it have opposite sides parallel? Yes. Does it have 4 congruent sides? Yes, so it's a rhombus. Does it have right angles? No, so it can't be a square. Circle the quadrilaterals that have all the attributes of a parallelogram. So is a rectangle have opposite parallel sides? Yes. Does a rhombus have opposite parallel sides? Yes. Does a square have opposite parallel sides? Yes. Does a trapezoid have opposite parallel sides? No. Circle the quadrilaterals that have all the attributes of a rhombus. So opposite parallel sides that are congruent. Does a rectangle have opposite parallel sides that are congruent? No. Does a square have opposite parallel sides that are congruent? Yes. Does a trapezoid have opposite parallel sides that are congruent? No. Do all parallelograms have opposite sides that are congruent? No. Some of them do, but not all of them. All right, we're going to stop here, and I'd like you to continue answering the questions 7 through 13. I also really recommend that you do the homework for this one. And we're going to go to our vocabulary.